All right, it's betting time. You're watching Wager Talk Today, and what a show we have. Ross Benjamin, right off the bat, he's going to look at the Brew Crew in today's baseball matchup. He's also got a bet for us on the Giants and the Orioles. No, I messed that up. Giants and Orioles and Dodgers, Giants and whatever. He's got some baseball. I'll have to go through those notes a little later. Andrew McInnis after that, 2 NFL. Shut up, Dan. Okay, let's start this show again. Stop it all.
Let me help you, Lawrence.
Teddy,
yeah, just take him off. All right, yeah. Okay. On today's show, we will have Ross Benjamin. He's going to talk Brewers, Giants, and Orioles, Dodgers.
Oh,
MLB.
yeah, that's what it
He's
says.
going to talk about a prop for Patrick Mahomes in the opener against Baltimore and Kansas City, as well as Panthers Saints on opening day. Art DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook will close out the show. We'll get his thoughts about what's going on the other side of the counter. My big game breakdown, college football, national TV affair, LSU, USC. That should be fun. And in What Bettors Learned, of course, we're going to revisit something we talked about yesterday, where Michigan State's quarterback literally said, take the over twice in a news conference. That merits 2 times. We're going to talk about it in What Bettors Learned. Lawrence, let's get right into the show right here, right now, and bring in our first guest, Ross Benjamin.
Teddy, that was outstanding work, dude. Bailed me out, although Dan just did slack me saying that was the best intro he has ever heard. And I'm appreciative. You know, I got a lot of love for Dan. It's betting time. That's going to be our new slogan, Teddy. Okay, breathe. Ross Benjamin. What up, my friend? How are you, dude? I saw you. We had a social media seminar on Monday, and Teddy, the old guy, was there. So did you understand words like X and Instagram? Like, was that like you understood what was going on?
Yeah, it really overwhelmed me, Prez, I could tell you. And I'm glad to see you got my name right, because you didn't get anything else right at the top of the show.
Well, your name's the most important part, Ross Benjamin. Anyway, it was good to see you. Shout out to Kelly for organizing that. But to both you and Teddy, and then we'll get into some betting info. When you're on a Zoom call with 20 other people, nobody needs to see your face. They just don't need to. Firstly, neither of you have a face of the gods. And secondly, just turn the video off. You know, had that guy from CNN, Jeffrey Tobin, turned the video off, he wouldn't have been canceled. So turn the video off. Okay, done. Let's go. Brewers and Giants. Ross, how do we bet this game?
Boy, after that comment, my confidence is shot. I don't know if I want to continue. Anyway, Kyle Harrison going for the Giants and Freddie Peralta going for the Milwaukee Brewers. Just a simple case for me of one pitcher in bad form against another one in recent good form. Kyle Harrison, over his last 4 starts, a 5.59 ERA and an alarming 6 home runs allowed in 19 and a third innings pitched. So not very good form at all. As a matter of fact, that's bad form. San Francisco, their home and away splits this year. They're 38 and 28 at home, and despite last night's 5-4 win at Milwaukee, just 29 and 37 on the road. Harrison also, in his last 5 starts on the road, the San Francisco Giants have gone 1-4 in those games, and opponents have averaged 6.2 runs per game. Now, that's not all on him, but a majority of that run production over that course of time is certainly falls on the shoulders of Kyle Harrison. Freddie Peralta, on the other hand, good form over his last 3 starts with a 2.65 ERA, a 1.06 WHIP. Despite last night's home loss, the Brewers 33 and 18 in their last 51 and 5-1 in their last 6 at home. They're also 8-4 in their last 12 and 13 and 7 in their last 20 overall. So, and this is also a Milwaukee team that's they put a lot of pressure on you offensively. They might not put up the gaudy offensive numbers, but their on-base percentage since August 1st as a team, 334 and averaging over 5 runs a game. In that same time frame, on the other hand, San Francisco, a 290 on-base percentage and averaging just a tad over 4 runs per game. So I like the starting pitching matchup. I like the advantage with Milwaukee being at home with the home and away splits between both teams. And I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers here on the run line here. You'll never catch me laying $1.65, Teddy. So I'm going to go -1.5 at plus money, plus 130 over the San Francisco Giants.
Do you worry at all that the Brewers are playing all these one-run games lately? 5-4 yesterday, 4-3 the previous game. They had a 3-2 on their last, on the road trip before they came home. I mean, when you talk about laying a run and a half, even with a team with a good bullpen like the Brewers, talk to me about the thought process that goes into that as opposed to laying the juice.
Again, I mean, if you look at every team, they're involved in a lot of one-run games throughout the course of the year. I get your point about more recently that's been more the norm than not. But however, I mean, I look at the starting pitching matchup, and I think right there in itself lends itself to why this money line is -165. And also the fact, I like the fact the algorithm of Milwaukee coming off a home loss and playing at home with the home record they have. And again, San Francisco has been nowhere near as good on the road as they've been at home. So good point, Teddy, but I'm willing to overlook that because of all the specifics I stated throughout my analysis.
Did Ross Benjamin just say algorithm? That's awesome. Ross Benjamin, exclusive handicapper at WagerTalk.com and ex-lead singer of a Leonard Skinner cover band. And Ross, I do want you to sing for us one day, like Tuesday's Gone. Can you do it now? Do the chorus of Tuesday's Gone.
Come on, Prez, let's move on to Baltimore and the Dodgers, please.
Okay, Ross, I never do that. I'm the nutcase on this show. So this is a hell of a match. This is a hell of a matchup here. Could be the World Series. Baltimore lost last night 3-2. How you betting this game?
This looks like a stellar starting pitching matchup on paper with Corbin Burnes going for Baltimore and Walker Buehler going for the LA Dodgers. But if you look inside the numbers, especially recently, that's not the case. Corbin Burnes, who was terrific to start the year, all of a sudden has hit a bump in the road of late. And matter of fact, he's hit a brick wall of late. Over his last 4 starts, an 8.71 ERA and a 1.74 WHIP. The Baltimore bullpen, by the way, since August the 1st, they've been shaky with a 4.97 ERA as a staff. They're number 28 in Major League Baseball during that time period in home runs allowed per 9 innings pitched. So the combination of a shaky bullpen and a pitcher in bad form right now in Corbin Burnes lends itself to LA Dodgers, who are a powerful offensive team, putting up some good run contribution tonight. Walker Buehler, by the way, this guy has not been the same since he first came up, and a lot of it is injury related. And, Teddy's made 2 starts since returning from the IL, not very good, a 7.36 ERA, a 2.46 WHIP in those 2 starts, and he only lasted a combined 7 1/3 innings pitched. Furthermore, over his last 5 overall, an 8.38 ERA and a 2.12 WHIP. So even before he went on the IL and now after he's coming off the IL, he's been terrible. There's no other way to put it. The Dodgers, 32 home runs in their last 23 games and averaging over 5 runs per game. In fact, Baltimore, number 2, and LA Dodgers, number 3 in home runs hit this year. Baltimore's also number 3 and the LA Dodgers, number 4 in runs scored this year. And Baltimore's slugging percentage, number 1 in baseball, while the LA Dodgers are number 4. So you got 2 struggling pitchers, starting pitchers, a bullpen from Baltimore that's struggling a bit, and a reasonable number of 8.5. Actually, if you looked at 8.5, Teddy, with Corbin Burns pitching, you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of games in which he didn't have a total of 8 or 7.5. So I'm going to go over the total of 8.5 here, Baltimore and the LA Dodgers.
So I'm certainly not going to make a case for the under in this ballgame, and your analysis makes perfect sense to me, Ross. My question is, why are we talking full game as opposed to first half? To me, they're both starting pitchers we want to fade. First half total 4.5, full game 8.5. I understand Baltimore's bullpen has been dicey, but in my mind, your analysis made a pretty good case for first half over as opposed to full game over. Talk about how you made the choice to go full game, and if you would potentially split your wager.
If both teams' bullpen was on fire right now, I certainly would entertain that thought, Teddy. And it's a great question, and it's something that people need to think about. If you got two struggling bullpens or two very good bullpens with two struggling starting pitchers, obviously that would be something you should very much consider. But in this case, with the Baltimore bullpen struggling the way they are, and the home run prowess of both teams, I'm going to choose to go the latter, which is over 8.5, because again, it's not like you're getting a number in the first 5 that's 50% or less of what the game total is. So that's my reasoning in that regard, Teddy. But certainly a great point that viewers should really take notice of when evaluating a game such as this.
Ross Benjamin, I want to be you. You are so damn cool. It's actually ridiculous. Anyway, we had a request for you to sing the Ballad of Curtis Lowe. So,
I used to wake the morning before the roosters crowed, searching for soda bottles, making myself some dough. Took them down to the corner, down to the country store. Okay, it's as far as I'm going with it. Thank you.
I don't even know that.
Thank you.
I don't even know that song.
What do you have to promote, Ross?
That's a classic ballad, Prez. I'm surprised you don't know that.
I know. I'm surprised too, especially considering I have a relationship with Leonard Skinnard. What do you got to promote?
College football starting full tilt on Saturday. I didn't use anything last Saturday, but I certainly am. I got 4 picks up for sale right now, and all of them are 3-unit plays or 3% plays. I will have a 5% play as well. But college football last year, I finished on runs of 10-3 and 62-42. Was number 2 overall at WagerTalk in college football in terms of money earned. So take advantage, folks. Go to my personal link. It's wt.buzz/RB. You can get my college football annual package right now for $529. That's not a lot of money. It's a little bit of money to make a lot of money, because last year made over $4,000 in college football based on our grading system, Prez.
Beautiful stuff, Ross. Cool as shit. Teddy covers. It's betting time. Okay. That's going to be my new signature. Eric D name. I'm now Lawrence. What are those guys? Buffer. Lawrence Buffer. No, I'm Prez Buffer. I'm Pruffer. I don't know. Teddy, I'm going to shut up. What did bettors? I'm going to be brought into this segment. I better listen and pay
exactly.
attention.
You can't shut up, because I'm bringing you in today in what bettors are. Because I wanted to talk about this again. Because Michigan State, the sophomore quarterback, he's not even a senior. He's a sophomore. His name's Aiden Childs. And not once, but twice in a news conference, he goes, if you bet, take the over, talking about the Michigan State game against Florida Atlantic. And that's Friday night, a national TV affair on Fox Network, 7 o'clock East Coast, 4 o'clock here on the left coast. So a quarterback telling reporters, quote, if you bet, take the over. Think about how crazy this is. 10 years ago, literally, for saying those words, those exact same words, Austin Childs would have been thrown off the team, suspended, and would no longer be eligible to play D1 football. All right, scholarship gone. we know things have changed, Prez. I mean, think of your weed when you used to come to Vegas. You're asking the valet guys, you were sneak meeting strangers in the bathroom. And
okay, that sounded
same
bad.
thing happened around the country with bookies. I don't mind at all when the starting quarterback gives me his betting opinion of the game. Doesn't mean I have to bet it or that he knows anything about betting. But to see this type of paradigm shift, Prez, where a guy literally would have been thrown off the team, and now it's just like, yeah, okay, bet the over. Meanwhile, the markets, of course, went from 48 to 45 in that ballgame. They do not agree with Child's assessment. But, I mean, Lawrence, when you think about that concept, this guy would have been thrown off the team and never play college football again. And now it's like, yeah, okay. And it's not that much of a time frame difference. What's your take?
Well, yeah. So real quick, firstly, in regards to the time frame difference, the right and wrong part was prior. They were wrong prior. Destroying a guy's life because he makes that statement 10 years ago is total bullshit. So I'm really glad that they've changed. Secondly, one of our listeners yesterday commented on our YouTube video and said that he was alluding to over 4.5 wins on the season. And supposedly he came out and clarified that, and that's when it was bet back down to 44.5. I am just the messenger. So just for the record,
that's a really important note. I appreciate you sharing it with both me and the audience because I did not know that. And it's quite possible he might have meant in reference to that. Let's also not forget that your mainstream reporters aren't going to understand the gambling nuances. Did he mean bet the over 4.5 wins? Did he mean bet the over for the game, et cetera, et cetera? The reporter's going to write it. They don't know. So if you watch the news conference, have a better idea. That's a great tip. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, but it is, listen, I'm totally good with these guys coming out and saying whatever they want to say. They should be allowed to, Teddy. Like, I don't think they should be allowed to bet on the games that they play in. But, man, what is the problem? Like, do you think there's a problem with a quarterback coming out there with, Jared Goff coming out there and saying, hey, this weekend we match up great against their defense, take the over? Do you have a problem with that?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I would much rather have a quarterback or a player say something in a public venue so that we all can hear it and get the quote than to be whispering something on the side to somebody, which is a much bigger concern.
Well, there you go. Okay, let's keep this show moving. It's betting time. Andrew McInnis joining us. What up, Andrew? How are you, brother?
What's up? Doing very well. Kind of disappointed the summer's coming to an end, but with NFL coming up here and NHL, I'm excited. So doing well. And I couldn't agree more with you guys about that. I think that I find it a lot throughout the summer here with Canadian TV, with TSN, all these people giving out betting advice, like on the panels that that have never bet in their whole lives. Like what you were saying yesterday, Teddy, about where you should find your information. It kind of does bother me. And I've never really been one to say stuff like that because, you don't want to act like you're better than someone else. But be careful who you're getting your betting info. Great broadcasters don't always mean great sports bettors. And Prez, that social media training was awesome, but it's an old school, it's a school thing. You can't, I agree. I would have loved to have been able to drink my smoothie as I was and listen in the background. But the reason you leave your webcam on is to show you're paying attention. I would have loved to have had mine off like half of you guys too.
You're being graded?
Prove to your bosses, graded? I don't know. I'm proving that I'm paying attention. You could have just gone and walked your dog for all I know. I don't know.
On that note, Rob Vino wins. Rob Vino had his video on, and did you see what he was doing for the entire session? No. He was taking notes. He had a pen and a paper, and he was old school writing down notes. So he wins. But I'm not buying what you're selling, Andrew. You're not being graded. Nobody's judging you. And I feel like you concentrate better with your video off. You're not worrying about your hair, how you look. I didn't think Teddy looked particularly amazing. Yes.
I'm never worried about my hair. I'm never worried.
Yeah,
okay?
no one's worried about that
worry
except you, Lawrence.
Eric D writes, he always has is off. Whenever I'm on a Zoom call, my video's on for 1 minute, so they see that I'm there, then I turn it off. You don't need to look at me. I'm an old, decrepit man, for Christ's sake. Who the hell wants to look at me? Anyway, Andrew, I appreciated you being there, and we had an owners meeting after the meeting, and you passed. So you passed.
Oh, great.
We noticed you paid. We noticed you were paying attention. Ravens and Chiefs. That's how we're starting this NFL season, and it's going to be a doozy. Last year it was Detroit in Kansas City. They came out with that was an incredible football game. You got a bet for us in this game. What is it?
I'm excited here, Prez. It's quite the bold one here. Look, guys, everybody you'll see, content creators, sports bettors, everybody in the space that bets on props, 99% of people are going to start their season off by betting overs. And a lot of people on Friday morning are going to be very disappointing when they find out that not every over is going to hit, especially in the first game of the season. So I've decided to kind of make a bold pick here, take an under involving Patrick Mahomes, which is always risky. But I'm going to go under 35.5 yards for his longest pass completion. Now, Baltimore, this Ravens team was the #1 team in yards per attempt allowed last season. Worth noting, KC was actually #3 in this category as well. But I think, the Ravens have such a dynamite offense, but they don't get enough credit for their defense. And even KC last year, their offense is still great. Sure, they've got Kelsey. Sure, they have Mahomes. But their defense did win them a lot of games. And I will definitely die on that hill. And when you look at some of the individual numbers for longest reception for some of these players, Kelsey, 20.5. Xavier Worthy, 20.5. Most people I've spoken to, and I've talked about this pick to, they said, yeah, but dude, Xavier Worthy gets one pass, that could be for 45 yards and you're screwed. I think that maybe the chemistry could take some time, but also his number is 20.5. Ask yourself, why is Xavier Worthy's number 20.5 for his longest reception if Patrick Mahomes' number is 35.5 here for his longest completion? To me, the first game, no matter which team you are, Super Bowl champs or the worst team in the league, takes some time. And the longer time that things take, the more field goals, the more kind of punts, the longer we get into the game, the less time for an explosive play. To me, this is a lot of yards here, guys, for the first game of the season, despite it being Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to go under 35.5 yards here.
So I just went back and looked at game logs for the last 2 years.
I was doing the same thing.
First 8 games last year, he went 33 yards or more in every game. In 2022, he was at 35 yards, I believe, plus in every game, or 30 plus yards in every game through week 13. You gave kind of a rhetorical question of why is Worthy 20.5 and all the receivers at 20.5, but Mahomes is at 35.5? And obviously the answer to that is because each receiver is only one guy, but Mahomes gets to throw to all the guys. But given his track record, all right, and given the fact that we're not talking about a ridiculously high number here, I mean, to me, this is a bet. Is it really better than a coin flip here? Talk to me.
Well, I think it's not as much that I'm dismissing the Chiefs and Mahomes as giving respect towards the Ravens defense and their team overall. I think that's what I want to be clear here with, is that I'm not coming on here and saying, Patrick Mahomes isn't capable, because that would be just a horrible statement to make. That's just not true. The fact is, Baltimore, #1 in the league last year in yards per attempt allowed. This defense has made big plays. And again, I think we did see a lot more dinking and dunking out of KC last week. I'm not saying they can't throw the ball deep. And yeah, Teddy, one play could burn me, and it could be the third pass of the game and it'll be horrible. But I think this number at 35.5, I think it's worth betting the under on, especially in the first game of the season against this Baltimore team. Worth noting, because I figured maybe you would have asked this as well, is I do actually lean towards the under in this game. If that means anything, if that correlates whatsoever, I do think this game overall could go under the total.
Yeah, I like that play too, Andrew. I don't know about this Mahomes one. I will say this. Last year against Detroit, the longest completion Mahomes had was 34 yards, so that did go under. Last year against Baltimore, the longest completion was 33 yards. So in a head-to-head, that went under as well. But over their head-to-head matchup in Baltimore, he's gone way over this number way more times than not. I agree with Teddy. I don't feel like it's a coin flip. Let's move on.
So let me ask this. If we don't bet it this time, when do we bet this prop?
Well,
we don't bet the under.
I don't have a bingo card, bro. I don't have to ever bet this prop. So
I know.
It doesn't work that way, bro. Like, I don't understand what you just said, actually. Anyway, Andrew, let's talk week one. Obviously, that's what we're doing. And we've got the Carolina Panthers, and they're playing the Saints. +4.5. Where are you going here? Two shit teams.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. We go from the Ravens and the Chiefs to the Panthers and the Saints, guys. Overall, NFL football overall handicapping. When I see two teams of this caliber, I want to be on the underdog, guys. I want to be on the underdog, and I want to be on the team that's improved from last season. I think Carolina has improved from last year. I do have faith in the quarterback play. I do think Bryce Young will continue to improve and progress. And I'm not one guy to buy too much into preseason. And Teddy, I've watched every single episode with you and Drew and Joe with the opening line report. And I do take it into account, the preseason. But I think Carolina looked pretty good. And I think New Orleans kind of disappointed me with some of the play I saw there from their guys, despite it not always being a full roster out there. And looking at the offensive line, I think they really addressed it, this Carolina team. I think Bryce Young's going to be protected, have a lot more time to make plays. They're going to be able to put some points up on this New Orleans secondary. And divisional matchups for Carolina, they were 1-5 straight up last year, but they actually kept it within this number of 4.5 3 times. And I think they're improved, and I think we're going to see some regression out of New Orleans here. And I simply am a lot lower on New Orleans defense than a lot of the people are. Derek Carr, to me, always seems to throw in the double coverage. I don't trust his decision-making. This, to me, is two crappy teams, and I want to be on the underdog, plain and simple. And I think Carolina improved themselves in the offseason a lot more than New Orleans did.
So I got to ask you, you said you saw positive things from Carolina in the preseason. I watched Carolina in the preseason, and I downgraded them, not upgraded them. What did you see that I didn't see?
Well, I think it's not necessarily reflective in the scores, obviously, but I just thought the decision-making, I thought the team chemistry looked better. I thought that some of these guys they brought in are going to be able to make differences in the regular season. Compared to the Saints, I think the point spread perspective as well in some of their games, they were supposed to be a lot better. They were supposed to win a few games. They were laying points in some games. They didn't perform that well. So, Teddy, overall, this is just an example of two teams that I'm very low on overall, and I just want to be on the underdog.
Yeah, look, Andrew, I'm not gonna disagree. If I had to take Carolina all year for my bingo card, I guess this game feels like as good a game as any. Good thing I don't. But man, I look at this team and the way they ended last year. Okay, sure, they put up 30 points against Green Bay. They laid a duck 2 in a row. They lost 9-0 and 26-0. They haven't scored a touchdown in the regular season in eight games. And 10-10, 6-9, 30. Why aren't we looking at the under here?
I got to jump in. Are you handicapping this year's opener based on last year's final scores?
No, I'm not, Teddy. However, Carolina did not add a whole lot to their offense that would suggest that they are going to be an offensive juggernaut this year. This team ended last year out of sync. They played like crap in the preseason. You downgraded them. And I'm looking at this team and I'm saying to myself, they are still going to play to the under. I understand it's only 40.5. I get that, but it's better to be ahead of these bets than behind these bets. And I'm saying I still think the Panthers will play to the under. 40.5 points in a Panther game, given the lack of improvement that they have shown on offense in both signings and preseason play, seems like a better bet to me than the Carolina Panthers. That's what I'm saying, my good friend Teddy.
That's some passion
Andrew, what
right
do you have
there.
to
That's some
promote?
passion. I'm not a huge numbers guy, but I just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this. Derek Carr, 21, 37, and 2 ATS when he closes in the market as a favorite, 4, 8, and 1 ATS last year as a favorite. So another reason why I like the underdog. But guys, I'm super excited about the NFL season, and I've got a CFL and NFL combo pack that you can find over at my page, wt.buzz/am. We're also riding a 69% long-term MLB run. That's
Nice.
going back to the end of July. So super excited about it. Last night, 1-1, full transparency, and unfortunately, the one that lost was a 5%er. So they were both plus money plays, but you always want to hit the big ones. I'm excited, guys. Grab those plays, and also gonna have a prop pack up later on this afternoon for some plays for the opening game, Chiefs and Ravens.
Love having you with us, Andrew McInnis. Thanks for joining us, brother. Keep kicking ass. Great CFL season. Don't sleep on Andrew's CFL plays. Teddy, we still have Art DiCesare coming up. But first, it's your big game breakdown.
LSU has lost as a favorite on opening day in each of the last 4 years, and they're laying points again this year. What's likely to be different? Well, maybe a lot. Big game breakdown. Let's talk LSU and USC, a single event national TV game on Sunday, September 1st, right here in Las Vegas. I'm going to the game. Should be a lot of fun. Some of our WagerTalk friends will be there as well. So this is a Tigers team that, again, they've lost as a favorite 4 years straight. Now, Mississippi State and UCLA the last 2 years under Ed Ordron, then Florida State. Tough losses each of the last 2 years, particularly 2 years ago. They lost by a single point. -2, -4, -1.5, and, of course, the one-time -18. But the majority of them have been tight point spreads, kind of like what we're seeing here, 4, 4.5, the prevailing number, 64, 64.5, the total as we speak. When I'm talking conceptually about what I'm looking for in week one of a season, it's not about players, it's not about coaches, it's about teams and how that team is priced in the betting markets. Most importantly, there are three things I'm looking for. I want bad teams that I can fade again and again. Vandy, Temple last year, Kent, Illinois. I mean, there's a bunch of examples you can use. I want teams that are priced mediocre but are actually good. Arizona last year, a great example. Kansas State, another classic example. Or teams that are priced like they're good but they're actually mediocre. Cincy last year, Florida, a couple of great examples of that. This game doesn't fall into any of those. So any bet that I make is likely to be an action wager, not a significant wager. That being said, LSU on paper is a lot better than USC. And particularly on the defensive side of the football. USC's defense was a big part of the reason why last year they were a point spread disaster area, despite having the Heisman winner at QB, despite having an offense that could basically march up and down the field. If you bet USC last year, you lost money. If you bet USC away from home, they went 4-9 against the spread over the year under Lincoln Riley, 1-5 away from home. So how much better is the defense going to be this year? They did poach UCLA's defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, which is a positive sign. But to expect an immediate turnaround from a defense that was really bottom tier a year ago, I'm not buying it. And while Miller Moss, look, he may well be every bit as good as Caleb Williams as a starting quarterback in college football. We see oftentimes the betting markets overreact to the loss of a great player. But LSU's defense is a different animal. All right. They hired defense coordinator Blake Baker, the highest paid assistant in college football, poached from Missouri this past offseason. He's a difference maker. Quote, I know that our football team feels really good about where we're at. You have to go out there and test yourself to answer their questions. Then we'll answer, but back here in a week to answer more questions about where we're at. I know we're going in prepared defensively. Our guys are excited to play. There's not a lot of confusion or busts. Guys know what it takes to play LSU football. I'm excited to watch them play. A Brian Kelly quote that, in my mind, is worth paying attention to. I'll take the better defense minus the points despite LSU's poor track record on opening day. Give me the Tigers -4 if you shop around 4.5 prevailing number on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy covers. Let's keep this show moving. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please take a second out of your day and hit that like button. 200 people watching the show live, only 64 likes. I think the show's been amazing. I give this show a 8.9 out of 9. Yeah, Teddy, keep going, Teddy. Keep doing it. Yes, likes, everyone. I love when Johnny watches the show, Teddy. Yesterday, somebody asked what's going on with the NFL presidential address. Just to let you know, it starts next week. This year will be slightly different. I'm going to be doing 3 NFL videos. One will be a top to bottom video, which will take only be 10 minutes. We'll go down every single game, and then I will give my favorite totals, my favorite sides. So we have lots of NFL Prez content coming your way starting all next week. Art DiCesare joining us. Art, welcome to the show, my friend. Are you pumped? Are you excited? 700 college football games in front of you.
I love it, man. This is what we do. The long, hot summer is over. I mean, it's still hot, but, you know, we can now get into football, and this is great, man. And then obviously the following week is just even better. When you have Saturday and Sunday and you got the dual, days of that. But, this college football is great because it basically starts Thursday and runs through Monday. I mean, there's just football all day. So really fun. Going to be a lot of energy in the sports book and a lot of fun for us back in the risk room as well.
Teddy covers. Let's show your age. There was a famous song, Long Hot Summer. You know the band?
No.
Well, I know Art
I don't know
doesn't
the
for
song.
sure. Art's too young. Art's too young. Okay, Long Hot Summer, guys. Who wrote that song? Who sang it? It's actually an incredible, incredible song. Art, let's get into some actionable betting information. Teddy, you're always better at getting the stuff out of him than me. I'll kick back for a bit and then I'll jump in a little later.
So that's what you want.
Yes, Teddy. I interrupted the show for that, Teddy. Yes.
So there's a specific preseason game I want to ask you about from last week, Art. I would consider this, from a bookmaker standpoint, as bad as a preseason game could get. The Bills were favored. Carolina closed -4.5, bounced back and forth on game day, 4.5, 5, 5.5, and it lands Carolina by 5. I would got to consider that's the worst possible outcome, where all the Panthers' money came, and then it bounced back and forth. Does a game like that affect your bottom line at all in August, or is it really just a non-factor? Am I thinking more to it than there is? Panthers Bills last week. How bad was it at the Westgate? Or is it really, preseason, we don't even worry about this stuff?
No, Teddy, I mean, it's something obviously that affects us and we worry about. You're right. It wasn't a good result. But if that's, a game in week 4, that could shift the whole week. I mean, it really can. That could really move the needle on what happens for us in a, particular week for an NFL, betting period when we look at the plus minus. So in a preseason game, is it going to move the needle that much? No, but I think it is something, of note.
So, Art, on that note, the books find themselves in a similar situation for this college football Saturday. Gianni the Greek came on the show yesterday and last week, released Texas A&M at a pick'em, and also Notre Dame at +3. Where's the action lie in that game? Do you have a huge risk situation if it lands inside of that 3 number?
Yeah, it would be definitely something we're looking at. And, he's right. It obviously opened pick. and we saw good early sharp money. And this was earlier in the summer because, a lot of these lines have been out for a while. So, we've been sitting at 2.5 for a while on that game. But we do know, because eventually there will be Notre Dame money. We just know that's going to happen. When people come into town this weekend, there are going to be plenty of people who take Notre Dame. There are going to be plenty of people who take Notre Dame on the money line. That will happen as well. Even the people, and it's not as much as the NFL, but people still do tease college football. People are going to tease Notre Dame through the 7. They're just going to do that. We know that's going to happen. But right now, we are pulling for Notre Dame because of the early flood of A&M money that's come in. And I'm pretty positive. I don't think we've touched 3 on the game yet. I think we're still sitting pretty steady at 2.5.
Arthur DiCesare at ArtDice21 on Twitter. He's a risk management supervisor over at the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas. Art, all the teams that played last week, the betting markets are reacting to. Whether it's, Hawaii didn't cover as a favorite, now let's bet against them as an underdog. Whether it's Florida State didn't cover as a favorite, let's bet them down against Boston College. Is this normal? Is this typical? And talk about that week 0 to week 1 betting market reaction / overreaction. Particularly, let's just talk the Monday single event game, Boston College, Florida State, where, BC's taking all the money so far.
They are taking a lot of money, Teddy. And we do this every week in college and the NFL. It's what you saw last. There's always an overreaction. There's an overreaction with numbers and the betting market. Look at Nevada. I mean, they were a team who's, priced at a 2.5 wins, worst team in the Mountain West. They're 21 point opening dogs to SMU. That thing gets as high as 27. They play SMU tooth and nail. Probably should have won the game. They opened 15.5 this week. It goes all the way down to 8.5. Now we've creeped up a little bit now to 9.5, but I mean, Nevada's the perfect example. That's supposed to be one of the worst teams in the country. And look at the overreaction on that. 6-7 point move.
So you say overreaction. Is it automatically an overreaction when we talk about these type of teams? Was Nevada priced wrong prior to the season, and now they're priced correctly? So the overreaction is just an appropriate reaction, or Florida State, or any of these teams. How do you, as a bookmaker, deal with that, and how do the bettors tend to deal with it?
That's a great question, Teddy, and that's obviously for us what we need to figure out in our risk room. Were our power ratings wrong? Was our season win total wrong? Like, did we open a number incorrectly? Now, I personally, take keys from the guys who've been doing it a long time, and they don't ever want to overreact after one game. But, we'll learn a lot more this week about those teams. I think the bettors look at it more. They're more emotional in the sense that, like, oh my God, look at what happened. Now we'll fade Florida State the whole year. Like they'll look at it like, all right, Florida State's a playoff. Like, we're not going to play, even if BC's no good, who cares? We'll take the points. FSU's got to prove it to me. I mean, we take a little bit more of a different approach, obviously, in the back room.
So do you like Florida State on Monday? Laying the now cheaper price?
I thought I was getting a discount on them. And people need to realize this, too. With the new playoff, Florida State wins out. They probably could still make the playoff. Obviously it's not a great loss, but, a lot of things. They're breaking in a new quarterback. They're in Dublin, Ireland. I mean, Georgia Tech played great. That kid, Haynes King, Texas A&M transfer, was awesome in the game. So Florida State could still win out, and all their goals are in front of them. So, yeah, I think sometimes when you get a discount on a team, it's usually the right move to do that. But I also thought you were getting a discount on Florida State last week because that thing was 13.5 and then was 10, but they obviously proved me wrong.
Yeah, listen, I was on Florida State last week too, and the thing that really stood out to me, Art, was just the lack of good decision making from an offensive perspective. I mean, the shutdown passes when they need it was horrible. They were 3rd and long all game long. They couldn't run the ball. He couldn't stretch the field. Everything just felt wrong about that team last week. But as we've seen this before, 1 week can change a lot, and they could come out flying on Monday. Art, real quick, who are your favorite Art DiCesare bets for college football this Saturday, this whole entire weekend?
Well, let me just kind of give you a rundown, do a little public and do a little sharp information. Public's on Northwestern -3. They're also on North Carolina -1.5. We're now -2. So little North Carolina money there. They're at Minnesota. Northwestern's at home against Miami of Ohio. And then the game in Vegas. I don't think there's any surprise that the public is going to bet the over. Even though it's moved up, it was 63.5. We hit 65. Now we're 64.5. Public's going to be very much on that over in that game. Figure the offenses are going to go up and down the field. 3 totals that were under that were sharp plays. You got UConn and Maryland. That was 48, now 45. Teddy mentioned the game. Michigan State. That was 48, now 45. Fresno State, Michigan, 48.5, now 45.5. So 3 sharp unders have moved 3 points. Boise is very popular. I think they're going to be popular all year with the sharps. Open 10, they're now 13. That was a big one. Coastal Carolina was catching 4.5. It went to 2.5. There was a little bit of buyback on 2.5. We're now at 3. That was also sharp. Sam Houston State took some sharp money at plus 11.5. They're now down to 10. And then West Virginia against Penn State. West Virginia took sharp money at plus 10.5. We've moved down all the way now to Penn State -8.5.
So let me ask you this, just to be very specific. At plus 8.5, would a self-respecting sharp take West Virginia at the current number? Are we seeing additional money come in after that first move?
We have not. But I always tell people this. I don't want to act like every sharp better we have or every sharp group that we see bet, they all get the same number. It just doesn't happen. I mean, there can be half a point or point differences. Different players, different groups have kind of their resistance point on a number. And then we also can get to the flip side where, as we talked about with Florida State, now it's a buy low spot. So we have not seen the 8.5 West Virginia money come in, but obviously we did see the 10.5, the 9.5, and even the 9. So still sitting at, 8.5 there, sitting here on a Wednesday morning. Haven't seen that 8.5 yet from sharps. They might feel they missed their number.
Teddy, every guest we have on the show is incredible. So the fact that I think Art's the best of all should demonstrate how high my opinion of Art DiCesare is as a guest. Art, U.S. Open tennis. Look, everybody is totally fixated on college football right now. Are you taking bets on the U.S. Open? Is it less than Wimbledon because of the seasonality, so to speak? And have you seen anything that you want to give us for that? Because tennis is a very popular sport worldwide to bet on.
It's a very popular sport. And is it less than Wimbledon? Obviously, Wimbledon in July, they're not competing against a lot. So I get it. And Wimbledon is obviously the prestigious tournament like the Masters would be for golf. But early on, especially round of 128, round of 64, ton of parlays. It's just they're parlaying the board. They're laying every favorite, and they're putting together 8, 10, and 12 teamers. You see a ton of that. That's always what happens. On the women's side, as far as the future book goes, we really don't have a liability one way or the other with anyone. Maybe Coco would be our biggest liability, but it's not something that would shut the lights out. Novak for us on the men's side is our big liability. It's tough to say because he's one of the 2 favorites. But, we took a pretty nice 5-figure bet on him at plus $3. And then we moved all the way down to $2, plus $2. So right now we will be rooting against Novak on the men's side.
Rooting against Novak in U.S. Open action. Art DiCesare broke it down. NFL, college football, NBA, tennis, you name it. Art, talk about you for a minute. What's going on at the Westgate Superbook? What's going on in Arthur DiCesare's life at ArtDice21 on X?
Yeah, listen, guys, we still got a lot going on. You can still come in and sign up for the Super Contest. Whether it's the regular one, the Gold Edition, the reboot. We still got the season wins contest open for the NFL. So obviously that's a really fun thing to come down and sign up for. $200 entry up to 5. That's a really fun thing. Keep you involved all year and something like that. Still have a great app promotion if you're a first-time app sign up. guy or girl, you come in, you bet 100, get 100, so it's like a free $100 bet. And as always, guys, if you have any questions, I know it's a busy time of the year. You can always talk to your frontline supervisors. But if I am there at the sportsbook, you can ask for me. I'll pop out, give you any information you need, give you the paperwork you need, and kind of point you in the right direction.
Art DiCesare. Wonderful stuff, man. Love having you on. See you next Wednesday. Teddy, dude, we got a killer show tomorrow. Marco D'Angelo, Ralph Michaels, Dave Mason. Friday, we got Andy Lang. Gianni's back. Brian Power. There's so much more betting info coming your way. Stay with us. Join us every day, noon Eastern, for Wager Talk Today. Teddy, my brother, I'm hungry as shit. It's lunchtime. Take us home.
And I'm pretty sure the expression goes, see you next Tuesday, not see you next Wednesday. That'll wrap it up for the
Are you using an acronym? Wait a minute. Are you using an acronym? See you next Tuesday?
Yes, my friend.
So,
enjoy the games.
So
Best of luck with your bat. I'm closing out the show. We'll see you guys tomorrow, right here on WagerTalk Today.